On this Monday night, Canada's worst spring wildfire season. The worries out west.
Your home could disappear.
What's forecast when evacuees could head home, and the mission to keep communities from getting cut off. Former U.S. President Trump in Florida tonight ahead of his big day in court. Our Jackson Proskow is there. Shein under scrutiny. The accusations the fast fashion giant sells clothing made by forced labor.
Global National with Donna Friesen.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. It's now officially Canada's worst wildfire season of the 21st century. 4.7 million hectares of forest has burned this spring, and more than 400 fires are burning right now. The world is coming to our aid. More international help is now on the way.
We expect over the next couple of days to see nearly 100 additional firefighters from Chile and Costa Rica, and the following day approximately 240 from Spain and Portugal.
The fires have driven more than 32,000 people from their homes, and in some communities in BC and Alberta, the fires are just kilometers away. Neetu Garcha has our top story tonight.
This evacuee from the BC community of Tumbler Ridge finding moments of joy with his dog Jake, despite fears of losing the town.
There's some people that are really worried because we're at that cusp. Like you say, things that kind of seem okay, but I know, I've worked forestry. All it takes is one of the winds that got us out of it.
It's the fifth day more than 2,000 people have been out of their homes, and local officials say they likely won't return before Friday.
It's very stressful, and just the not knowing is very frightening as well.
While there is rain in the local forecast for Tuesday, winds are the biggest concern. Hot, dry conditions in Alberta have been challenging firefighters across the province.
It's scary knowing that the fires are right there and your home could disappear.
A wildfire now about 3 times the size of Edmonton, which forced a second evacuation of the town of Edson, grew over the weekend. Local officials say the difference this time is the fire is within about a kilometre of the town of more than 8,000 people. They're urging anyone still there to get out now.
We have asked you to leave. I'm reiterating this because I can't underestimate how serious the situation is.
On Vancouver Island, a large out-of-control wildfire is toppling trees onto Highway 4, keeping the only paved roadway to the island's west coast communities closed. A local grocery store manager says truck deliveries are now arriving through special convoys.
There's a bit of panic shopping and people coming in with huge buggies and stuff. Hopefully people can kind of realize they don't have to stock up too much right now.
Run.
Knowing things could change quickly, some residents forced to flee from Tumbler Ridge are trying to stay positive.
Everything will be okay, no matter what happens.
Reassuring themselves as firefighters on the front lines of fires across provinces and territories take stock of their next steps in this record-breaking fire season that's just getting started. Neetu Garcha, Global News.
In Quebec, the highway into Chibougamau reopened this morning, allowing thousands of people to go home. More than 7,000 people fled last week. Premier François Legault says the situation has now improved, but more than 120 fires are still burning across Quebec. Rain is expected in some areas this week, but so is lightning, which could spark more fires. There is no let-up in the calls for a public inquiry into foreign interference in Canada. And now that former Governor General David Johnston is quitting his job as special rapporteur, saying the whole thing is too partisan, the pressure is on the opposition to suggest someone better. David Baxter reports.
Why do you need them?
In the wake of David Johnston's resignation as special rapporteur on foreign interference, the opposition message is clear: call a public inquiry.
So I want it to be done soon, and I want it to be done before an election so we can put it in place.
Johnston recommended against the public inquiry, but now Intergovernmental Affairs Minister Dominic LeBlanc says it was never ruled out.
It should have been the first resort, not the last resort, and it's very clear they have no plan, and they never intended to investigate foreign interference in our election. When will they stop delaying this with their games and just call a public inquiry?
Hear, hear.
So saying they want a public inquiry right now is not, in fact, a responsible suggestion. They should tell us what would be the terms of reference. How will they protect the national security interests of Canadians? Who might lead this process in a proper way?
On Sunday, Pierre Poilievre said he would be reaching out to the other opposition parties to begin talks on what an inquiry could look like and who leads it.
And if they do that, the government better choose from that short list, or the opposition parties will very easily be able to point that they didn't and prove that they didn't.
Finding one person to lead this process won't be easy. Who has the knowledge on operating elections, government process, national security, and a sterling reputation?
There may not be a single individual that meets all of that.
Former Privy Council clerk Michael Wernick suggests a panel may be a better way to satisfy all parties than a single rapporteur leading the process. If an inquiry does go ahead, it likely won't wrap up before the next election, especially in a minority setting.
While any inquiry is underway, they could be working on putting legislation in place and protecting the next election.
Now, Pierre Poilievre and Jagmeet Singh don't agree on much, but with this issue, they do. Whoever is next to lead the process must be seen as nonpartisan and have zero links to the Trudeau Foundation. Donna?
Okay, David Baxter in Ottawa, thanks. A judge on Canada's Supreme Court, Russell Brown, has announced he is retiring effective immediately, ending an investigation into accusations of misconduct. The Canadian Judicial Council says it no longer has jurisdiction to investigate an alleged alcohol-fueled incident at an Arizona hotel in January. Brown, who was appointed to the Supreme Court in 2015, had been on paid leave since February. He has denied accusations he was intoxicated and harassed a group of friends at the event. The 57-year-old is stepping down nearly 18 years before the legal end of his mandate, leaving a glaring hole on the 9-judge panel. Former U.S. President Donald Trump is in Florida tonight ahead of his court appearance tomorrow. He faces 37 federal charges, accused of retaining classified documents after leaving the White House and scheming to block government efforts to retrieve them. The evidence in the indictment is damning, yet senior Republicans are standing behind Trump, who has called for protests outside the courthouse tomorrow. Jackson Proskow is in Miami tonight.
Returning to Florida, the scene of his alleged crimes, Donald Trump prepared for his historic surrender to federal authorities and arraignment on dozens of criminal charges. Over the weekend, he rallied and railed against the indictment and the investigation led by special counsel Jack Smith.
Witch hunt, scam, hoax. It's called election interference.
His words carry weight, and outside the courthouse, police are on edge. Trump has called on his supporters to protest. Groups, including the far-right Proud Boys, have promised to be there.
We're taking this event extremely serious. We know that there is a potential of things taking a turn for the worst, but that's not the Miami way.
The indictment and its 37 charges stem from Trump's refusal to return highly classified documents relating to U.S. nuclear weapons and foreign intelligence operations. There's an obstruction charge alleging he and his aide tried to hide the documents. He is in more legal jeopardy now than at any other point.
The federal government is not playing here. They've done their investigation. They have their documents. They have their photographs. They have their witnesses, and they are ready to go.
Yet politically, Trump has never been in a better place. The charges have helped his presidential campaign. As Republicans circle the wagons, they're vowing revenge.
If you want to get to President Trump, you're going to have to go through me, and you're going to have to go through 75 million Americans just like me. Most of us are card-carrying members of the NRA.
Despite claiming that his own prosecution is politically motivated, Trump is now promising that if he's reelected president, he'll launch an investigation to go after President Joe Biden for unspecified crimes. He's currently planning to return to New Jersey after his court appearance, where he'll hold a fundraising dinner with donors as he seeks to capitalize on his legal woes. Donna?
All right, Jackson Proskow in Miami tonight. Thank you. Canada's Labour Minister says the government will introduce legislation next year to eradicate forced labour from Canadian supply chains. His statement comes on World Day Against Child Labour. It's meant to raise awareness about the practice of exploiting children. A Global News investigation has found a number of companies selling products in Canada allegedly produced by forced labour. Jeff Semple reports.
It's the biggest name in fast fashion.
We have a giant box here from Shein.
Shein, the Chinese online retailer, was the world's most popular fashion brand last year, targeting young shoppers with low prices.
Huge Shein haul.
And online videos promoting quality and quantity.
Then I got this dress. So cute. Then I got this dress.
But behind the scenes, the company is accused of making its billions on the backs of forced laborers.
We see it as cheap. It is cheap because it is made by the forced labor.
This Uyghur activist accuses Shein of using cotton produced in Xinjiang, China, where human rights groups say Beijing is conducting a genocide against Uyghur Muslims involving forced labor camps. In a statement, a Shein spokesperson said, "We are committed to respecting human rights and adhering to local laws in each market we operate in. We have zero tolerance for forced labor."
I decided to order some cotton items from Shein.
This American journalist recently hired an independent lab to test Shein's claim.
The cotton from the Shein items that I ordered matched the Xinjiang cotton almost exactly.
The U.S. is now cracking down, banning all imports from Xinjiang province. Mexico passed a similar law, but not Canada. In fact, Shein just opened this massive distribution center north of Toronto, sparking a small protest over the weekend.
It's not a company that we want in our own backyard.
In 2020, Canada banned the import of all products produced using forced labor, but so far, not a single shipment has been seized at the border. And Shein isn't the only company in the crosshairs. Import records show ingredients linked to forced labor allegations in Xinjiang on sale across the country, from tomato paste at Dollarama to red dates at this Toronto supermarket and gloves at this Vancouver textile shop. The store's owner says they recently stopped selling the gloves after learning of the allegations.
Canada is a dumping ground for the products made by the use of Uyghur forced labor.
And he says as other countries shut the door on these products, Canada risks becoming an even more popular destination. Jeff Semple, Global News, Markham, Ontario.
He was both revered and reviled. Coming up, the legacy of former Italian Prime Minister Silvio Berlusconi. Ukraine's military claims it has retaken a fourth village from Russian forces after launching counteroffensives to recapture territory. New video shows soldiers flying the Ukrainian flag after appearing to take control of a village in the Donetsk region in the country's southeast. Yesterday, Ukraine claimed it had liberated 3 villages. As rescue efforts enter a 6th day after a hydro dam collapse that caused widespread flooding in Ukraine's Kherson region, the Ukrainian government is now accusing Russian forces of blowing up another dam to slow Ukraine's counteroffensive. The International Criminal Court has opened an investigation into the initial collapse, which both sides blame on each other. NATO has kicked off its largest ever air deployment exercise in the skies over Germany. 250 aircraft from 25 nations are taking part. They'll train in crisis situations and send a political message to Russia about NATO's strength. The Russian President Vladimir Putin is among world leaders paying tribute to former Italian Prime Minister Silvio Berlusconi. The controversial billionaire turned politician died on Monday at the age of 86. Berlusconi was Italy's longest-serving leader since the Second World War and arguably created the template for many populist leaders who followed. Redmond Shannon reports.
È morto Silvio Berlusconi.
An Italian news anchor breaks down announcing the death of the TV network's founder, Silvio Berlusconi. The billionaire with a perma tan and an improbable hairline, Berlusconi leveraged property wealth and the power of TV to enter politics, starting his own party focused mostly around his politically incorrect personality.
Uno abbronzato, Barack Obama.
From referring to Barack Obama as suntanned to sex scandals and legal battles. In many ways, he was Trump before Trump was Trump, coming though from more humble beginnings.
He was a singer on a cruise ship where he has learned how to entertain.
Professor Paola Mattei says Berlusconi's greatest success was his longevity. Despite his failure to follow through on many promises, his ultimate undoing as Prime Minister, the 2008 financial crisis which left Italy's already stagnant economy broken. But he will forever be associated with the Bunga Bunga scandal, where he was convicted but later acquitted of paying for sex with a teenage dancer. Then in 2013, he only escaped jail time over tax fraud because of his age. While banned from taking public office, he visited his friend Vladimir Putin in illegally annexed Crimea. After returning to politics, his party joined the current coalition led by Giorgia Meloni. His bombastic legacy felt by followers, but also by those who never voted for him.
Italian politics was like a show, right? It was much better than Netflix.
Un saluto affettuoso.
Even last month, as his health failed, he campaigned from hospital. Behind him, a photo of perhaps his biggest admirer of all, himself. Redmond Shannon, Global News, London.
Ahead, the rescue of 4 children lost in the Amazon jungle for 40 days. If it were a movie, the ending would seem improbable. 4 Colombian children somehow survived a plane crash and then 40 days in the Amazon jungle. Their family got the news they'd been praying for. As Mike Armstrong explains, harrowing details are now emerging about what they endured.
When search crews finally found the children, the good news went out by radio as an alert. One word repeated 4 times: miracle. The siblings were airlifted out of the jungle after being stranded for more than 5 weeks. The youngest barely a year old, the oldest just 13. The father of the 2 youngest is revealing heartbreaking details of what happened. He says Leslie, the 13-year-old, says their mother survived the crash but was badly injured. Before she died, she told the children to leave to save themselves. The plane disappeared May 1st in the dense Amazon jungle. The pilot had radioed a Mayday alert due to engine failure. More than 100 soldiers and 200 indigenous volunteers searched a massive area, about 300 square kilometers. The wreckage was found May 16th with 3 bodies. The children weren't there. It's believed they were in the back of the plane when it crashed. They survived because that part was less damaged. Well, they still had to survive the jungle. The children's grandmother says they were led by the 13-year-old, a young girl, she says, with the nature of a warrior. The family are members of an indigenous tribe. The children were taught hunting and fishing at a young age. They also played survival games and knew what they could eat in the jungle and what was poisonous. The father says the children are recovering well. He hopes to have his kids back home soon. Now, the youngest child has a new godfather. The family has given that honor to the commander of the rescue operation.
It is amazing. I just only have 1 kid, but for me, I have in this moment 2.
Operation Hope isn't quite over. During the search, the soldiers lost a dog in the jungle. Wilson is missing, and the military says it won't leave him behind. They're still looking. This is a drawing of Wilson done by one of the children in hospital. Mike Armstrong, Global News.